There's a quiet crisis spreading across the modern world. You won't see it on the news. You won't hear it talked about in schools. But you'll feel it. Every time you scroll through social media, every time you walk through a city, every time you look into the tired eyes of a man who's given up. Men everywhere are choosing silence over struggle. They're walking away from dating, relationships, and even marriage. Not because they hate women, but because they've realized the game is rigged. For years, society told men that if they worked hard, stayed loyal, and respected women, love would naturally follow. But now, the rules have changed. A man can do everything right, be kind, stable, dependable, and still be overlooked for the thrill of chaos. He can build his career, pay his bills, stay in shape, and still be told he's not enough. Because in today's world, a man's value isn't measured by his character, it's measured by his entertainment value. We've entered a time where attention is currency, and men are broke. Women, constantly validated through social media, have more options than ever before. At least that's how it feels. The average woman receives more male attention in a single day online than her grandmother did in a lifetime. And that attention changes everything. It creates a false sense of abundance, a belief that there's always someone better around the corner. So, when a good man approaches with honesty and sincerity, he's often met with apathy, boredom, or worse, disrespect. Because he's not exciting. He's not part of the fantasy she's used to. And so, men retreat. They stop chasing. They stop playing a game they can't win. But here's the irony. This isn't about weakness. It's about clarity. Men are finally seeing the truth behind modern dating. The double standards, the manipulation, the way loyalty has been replaced with convenience. And instead of fighting for validation, they're choosing peace. It's not that men have stopped loving women. It's that they've stopped believing that love, in its traditional, loyal form, even exists anymore. What we're witnessing is an epidemic of disconnection. Millions of men quietly giving up on romance, family, and even hope. Not because they're broken, but because the world convinced them they were the problem, but they're not. They're the symptom of a deeper cultural shift, one that has taught women that they can do no wrong, and men that no matter what they do, it will never be enough. And that's what this video is about. By the end, you'll understand exactly why so many men have chosen solitude over suffering, and why, whether women want to admit it or not, they had a hand in creating this new generation of lonely men. There's a new kind of man emerging, quiet, detached, and invisible. He's not bitter. He's not broken. He's just done. This is the modern male ghost, a man who's stopped playing the dating game entirely. He's not chasing women. He's not fighting for attention. He's not trying to prove himself anymore. Instead, he's pulled back, focused inward, and chosen solitude over emotional exhaustion. At first glance, people assume he's antisocial or afraid of commitment. But the truth is deeper. He's seen too much. He's watched friends pour their hearts, time, and money into women who never respected them. He's watched marriages fall apart after years of loyalty, leaving men financially and emotionally destroyed. He's watched the system, dating, marriage, even culture itself, turn love into a liability. So he disappears, not in a dramatic way. He doesn't make a post about quitting dating. He just stops trying. He goes to the gym, builds his business, plays his music, scrolls in silence. He channels all the energy he used to give away into himself. And for the first time, he feels free. But here's the strange part. When he vanishes from the dating market, the world doesn't chase him. It mocks him. You're weak. You're bitter. You just can't handle women. Society loves a man who sacrifices himself for love, but it hates a man who refuses to play the game. Because the modern male ghost is a threat. He's the man who no longer validates the illusion. He doesn't like, comment, or chase. He doesn't compete for women who think they're goddesses because of filters and attention. He doesn't feed the machine of validation that keeps it all spinning. And that scares people. Because when men start walking away, the power dynamic shifts. When good men stop chasing, women lose leverage. When strong men choose peace over attention, the illusion of abundance collapses. This is why so many women today feel confused. They can't find serious men anymore. But they don't realize why. It's not that men have disappeared. It's that men have woken up. They've realized that love isn't supposed to be a transaction. That respect should go both ways. That giving everything to someone who sees you as replaceable isn't romantic. It's suicidal. So they fade out. They become ghosts. Not because they hate love, but because they refuse to destroy themselves trying to earn it. And the longer they stay gone, the more powerful they become. Because in silence, a man grows sharper. In solitude, he learns peace. And once a man finds peace, he becomes almost impossible to control. The rise of the modern male ghost isn't the end of romance. It's the beginning of male awareness. A quiet revolution, one where men stop chasing validation and start building value. In today's world, women live in a constant state of perceived abundance. Every like, every DM, every "you're gorgeous" comment reinforces the idea that she's the prize and that every man wants her. But here's the catch. Attention isn't the same as attraction. And attraction isn't the same as commitment. Modern technology has blurred that line beyond recognition. Social media has turned every woman into a mini celebrity. She posts a picture, 1,000 men respond. Compliments, fire emojis, heart eyes. And in her mind, that attention becomes validation. Validation becomes confidence. Confidence becomes illusion. Illusion that she can have anyone. Illusion that she can always do better. Illusion that she has options. But options don't mean opportunity. Because out of those 1,000 men, 900 want her body, not her soul. 80 want to sleep with her once, not build with her. 15 might take her on a date. And maybe one actually respects her enough to stay. Yet even then, she's conditioned to keep scanning, because the algorithm never sleeps. Every scroll shows her men more handsome, richer, stronger. Men who seem to have it all. And the more she sees, the less content she becomes. This is the illusion of infinite choice. It's not real abundance. It's artificial dopamine. You see, evolution wired women to seek the best possible mate. Back when survival depended on strength and stability, that instinct made sense. But now, that same instinct is weaponized by the digital world. Every post, every swipe, every notification tells her, you can do better. So she starts treating attention like currency. She doesn't chase love, she chases status. She doesn't want connection, she wants confirmation. And that's why even good men, loyal men, devoted men can't hold her interest. Because once a woman becomes addicted to validation, commitment feels like confinement. The steady love of a real man can't compete with the constant thrill of virtual approval. So she begins to confuse boredom with discontent. And discontent leads her to think something's wrong with you, when in reality, she's just overstimulated. This is why so many women say things like, I just don't feel the spark anymore, or I need to find myself. They're not searching for themselves. They're searching for that dopamine hit they've been conditioned to crave. But here's the tragedy. When they finally wake up, the illusion fades. They realize those options were never real. That attention doesn't equal love. That no one's lining up to build a life with them, only to borrow a moment. And by the time they see it, the men who once would have given them everything are long gone. The illusion of abundance is the most seductive lie of the modern world, and the one that costs women the most. Something has changed in men, not just emotionally, but spiritually. There was a time when men built cities, fought wars, and created legacies, all for the chance to win a woman's love and loyalty. Now, Men build quietly, but for themselves. Not because they stop loving women, but because they stop believing women would ever love them back in the same way. Every generation before this one had a clear reward system. Work hard, become valuable, and you'll earn respect. From society, from your peers, from your woman. But today, that formula's broken. You can be a man of purpose, discipline, and strength, and still get ghosted for someone with a better Instagram profile. It's not that men don't want to provide anymore. They've realised no amount of providing guarantees loyalty. You can give a woman the world and she'll still scroll through her phone thinking about what she might be missing. That realisation kills something deep inside a man. It extinguishes the fire that used to drive him. Why fight? Why sacrifice? Why strive? When the reward isn't love but comparison. So men start pulling away, not from life, but from illusion. They stop trying to impress. They stop chasing validation. And they start redirecting their focus towards something far more powerful, themselves. You see, the collapse of male motivation isn't really a collapse at all. It's an awakening. It's men finally realizing that their energy, their time, their discipline, their attention are sacred resources, and they've been giving them away too easily. Every man eventually reaches a breaking point. That moment when he looks at his reflection and realizes, I've been building castles for people who never plan to stay. That's when he stops seeking external approval and starts crafting internal power. He becomes selective, purposeful, still. And in that stillness, he regains his strength. The truth is, the modern man isn't unmotivated. He's disillusioned. He's tired of pouring into women who treat relationships like opportunities instead of responsibilities. He's tired of trying to love someone who mistakes attention for affection. He's tired of loyalty being seen as weakness instead of virtue. So he chooses solitude. And from that solitude, something powerful begins to form. A man who no longer lives to be desired, but to become undeniable. This is the new era of masculinity. Not desperate, not submissive, not lost, but awakened. A generation of men who are no longer driven by the hope of being chosen, but by the mission of becoming worthy regardless. And when that man rises, calm, focused, and unbothered, he becomes something the modern world isn't ready for. A man who no longer needs validation to know his worth. Here's the irony no one wants to talk about. Modern women often create the very men they claim to hate. The emotionally unavailable, the cold, the detached man. He didn't start that way. He became that way. Because every man starts off wanting to love, to give, to protect. It's in his nature. He's built to build, whether it's a home, a family, or a future. But every time that love is mocked, manipulated, or taken for granted, something inside him changes. When a man gives his all and it's never enough, he learns not to give so much. When his vulnerability is used against him, he learns to hide it. When his loyalty is met with betrayal, he learns not to trust. And when his consistency is seen as boring instead of valuable, he learns that excitement, not effort, is what women reward. So he adapts. He becomes colder, sharper, less available. Not because he wants to hurt anyone, but because it's the only way to protect himself from being hurt again. And here's the cruel twist. Those same women who once overlooked him now say, why can't men be emotionally open anymore? The answer is simple. Because they punished the ones who were. See, women claim they want nice guys, loyal, dependable, good men. But in practice, many chase the feeling of excitement over the reality of security. They choose unpredictability because it feels like passion. They choose detachment because it feels like mystery. They choose emotional games because it gives them something to chase. And the men who notice this pattern? They adjust. They stop being vulnerable. They stop oversharing. They stop chasing. They learn that in the modern dating world, the man who cares less wins more. So women end up creating a paradox. They crave emotional connection, but only reward emotional distance. They say they want honesty, but prefer confidence, even if it's fake. They say they want loyalty, but chase attention. And when the good men finally stop trying, they say, "Where have all the real men gone?" They're still here, just quieter, building alone, observing, watching the chaos from the sidelines. Women haven't destroyed men. They've reshaped them into guarded versions of what they used to be. And once a man learns to detach from approval, he can't be controlled anymore. That's the irony of it all. When women push too far, they don't break men. They forge them. They turn them from romantics into strategists, from lovers into leaders, from seekers of affection into masters of focus. And once a man becomes that version of himself, he's no longer looking for love to complete him. He's looking for peace to protect him. Every action in psychology has a consequence, and modern female behavior in the dating world is no exception. Because when a generation of women grows up believing they can always do better, one day they wake up realizing they can't. See, the illusion of endless options that once felt empowering eventually becomes a trap. When every man feels temporary, no man feels special. And when every connection is disposable, love loses its meaning. At first, she's swimming in attention, comments, messages, validation. She feels desired, powerful, wanted. But slowly, the cracks begin to show. The attention stops feeling exciting. It starts feeling empty. The compliments she used to crave become repetitive, predictable. The men she thought were lining up for her heart, they were only there for her body. That's when the disillusionment sets in. Because she starts realizing that attention isn't the same as affection. That being desired isn't the same as being loved. And that in chasing validation, she's lost the one thing she was really after: connection. It always starts small. She sees her friends settling down, finding stability, building families. Meanwhile, she's still chasing the high, the thrill of being wanted, and wondering why she feels lonelier than ever. She starts revisiting her past, scrolling through old photos, checking the profiles of men she once ignored, the good ones, the patient ones, the ones who would have stayed. And that's when it hits her. The men she once considered too boring, too available, or not exciting enough, have become the very men she now longs for. Because while she was chasing novelty, those men were building. While she was seeking attention, they were cultivating peace. And now, they've outgrown the game she's still trapped in. This is the quiet collapse no one talks about. The feminine disillusionment. It's the moment she realizes the power she thought she had was temporary. Because youth fades. Validation fades. But loneliness, that lingers. It's not that women suddenly become bad people. It's that they've been taught the wrong formula for happiness. They were told that empowerment means independence, even if it costs intimacy. That love should be convenient, not committed. That the man who gives too much is weak, and the man who gives too little is thrilling. But over time, the pattern reverses. The thrilling men disappear. The boring men become successful. And she's left wondering where all the good ones went. Never realizing she pushed them away. The tragedy is that this realization often comes too late. By the time she sees through the illusion, the men who once wanted her have already learned to live without her. That's the harsh truth about modern dating. In chasing validation, many women lose the very love they were designed to crave. There's a new silence in modern relationships, and it's not peaceful, it's hollow. Because men have stopped caring the way they used to. Once upon a time, men fought for love. They wrote letters, made sacrifices, and carried the emotional weight of commitment. But now, more and more men are emotionally checked out. They're not angry. They're not bitter. They're just done. This isn't apathy born from laziness. It's apathy born from exhaustion. After years of rejection, manipulation, and being told they weren't enough, men learn to detach as a survival mechanism. You see, when a man realizes that effort no longer guarantees affection, he stops giving effort. When he learns that vulnerability is mocked, he stops opening up. When he sees loyalty being traded for novelty, he stops believing in forever. It's not a decision, it's an evolution. A defense mechanism shaped by pain, disappointment, and disillusionment. Now, men channel their energy differently. Instead of chasing validation, they chase improvement. Instead of falling for fantasy, they fall in love with progress. They no longer crave connection. They crave control. Because in a world that punishes emotion, control becomes the only safe form of power. This is why so many women today complain about emotionally unavailable men, yet fail to see that they created them. Every time a woman says, "I want a man who's in touch with his feelings," what she really means is, "I want a man who feels, but never burdens me with those feelings." But men have learned that in the modern world, emotion equals liability. So they suppress it. They build walls, not homes. They offer presence, not passion. And they stop giving their hearts to anyone who hasn't earned the right to hold them. We've entered an era where men no longer fall in love. They observe it. They study people like chess pieces, calculating risks before every move. And in doing so, they've become harder to manipulate, harder to control, and much harder to love. Because once a man goes numb, once he learns to live without emotional validation, he becomes untouchable, not in a proud, egotistical way, but in a quiet, unshakable way. He's no longer addicted to affection, approval, or attention. He's addicted to peace. And that peace is something like no modern relationship can easily compete with. This is the paradox of modern love. Women want emotionally strong men, yet the only way men stay emotionally strong is by not caring too much. So, they walk away. Not in rage, but in silence. Not to punish women, but to protect themselves. And once a man reaches that stage, where love no longer feels like a necessity, he becomes the kind of man who's impossible to manipulate and impossible to forget.